Imagine standing in a room with 50 people who are supposed to love you, your whole family, people you have cooked for, cleaned for, shown up for, year after year. And your father stands up, champagne glass in hand, and announces a surprise family holiday. Everyone cheers. You let yourself feel it too. Rest, being included, mattering. So you ask the only logical question in the room. What day do we fly? And your father looks at you, not cruelly, just calmly, and says, in front of everyone, "You will not be joining us. Someone has to stay behind and mind the children." 30 people, watching. Not one of them said a word. If you have ever felt invisible inside your own family, stay right here. This story is for you. My name is Clara Ashford. I am 34 years old, and what I just described, that was real. That happened to me 3 weeks ago at my own parents' anniversary party, in the house I grew up in. That was my father's voice. Those were my family's eyes watching me absorb it in silence. And those children I was being asked to stay behind for, my sister's daughters, not mine. I had spent an entire week making that evening perfect. The flowers, the place cards, the canapes, 10 hours of invisible work. And when the celebration arrived, I was the staff, not the family. The staff. But here is what none of them knew. For 3 years, I had been building something quietly, a life they knew nothing about. And that night, holding a serving plate while 30 people looked away, I decided it was finally time to use it. If this story speaks to you, like and subscribe right now. Now, let me take you back to the beginning. The Ashfords live in a large red brick townhouse on the edge of a quiet English village called Thornfield. 4 bedrooms, a double garage, a rose garden that wins the neighborhood competition every summer. The kind of house that announces, "We are respectable people." My father, Gerald, retired 2 years ago as headmaster of the local grammar school. He speaks slowly and expects rooms to wait for him. My mother, Helen, runs the Village Women's Institute, organizes the church flower rota, and describes herself, without irony, as the glue that holds this family together. Then there is my sister, Victoria, 2 years younger, married to Sebastian Cole, a property developer whose income she drops into conversations the way most people mention the weather. They have 2 daughters, Lily, 6, and Rose, 4, a gleaming silver Range Rover in the driveway every time they visit. My 10-year-old Nissan, on the road outside. "Clara, could you move it to the lane?" Mum would say. Sebastian's bringing the Range Rover, and guests notice the driveway first. I always moved it. That is what you do when you've been the invisible one long enough. You stop expecting anything different. What helping out really looks like. Christmas. I arrive at 7 in the morning. I peel, set the table, iron the linen, coordinate 6 side dishes. Victoria arrives at noon, in cashmere, kisses everyone hello, and sits down to be served. Last August, I spent 7 hours running Lily's garden party while Victoria went to a spa because she needed to decompress. Family comes first, Clara. We all make sacrifices, except I'm always the only one making them. The Christmas gift that year, from Victoria, a novelty apron, embroidered with the words, "World's Best Auntie." I wore it, every single time, to cook, to clean, to babysit. I think I understood the truth one wet Wednesday in November. I was scrubbing my mother's pot after a dinner I had cooked, and I realized I could not remember the last time anyone had asked me somewhere simply because they wanted my company.
3 years ago, my life fell apart quietly. I had been with a man called James for 5 years. We talked about a cottage, children, a dog. Then, one evening, he sat across from me and said the words I've replayed 1,000 times since. I care about you, Clara, but it's like you're not really here. You're always present without being present. I feel like I'm in a relationship with a ghost. He left. I did not fight it, because somewhere inside me, I knew exactly what he meant. A week later, I wandered through a second-hand market, just moving, and noticed a second-hand camera stall. A Nikon DSLR, slightly scratched, priced at £120. I bought it on instinct. I told no one. That camera changed everything. I started photographing people the world overlooks. An elderly man feeding pigeons at 7 in the morning, a teenage girl with paint-stained fingers waiting for the bus, a night shift nurse walking home through an empty car park, shoulders hunched with exhaustion. The forgotten faces, the quiet ones. I called the series The Overlooked, an anonymous account. No name, no face, just photographs. Over 3 years, 8,000 people followed it, people who stopped and actually looked. I kept the camera wrapped in a scarf at the back of my wardrobe. It was the only thing in my life that was entirely mine. 6 weeks before the anniversary party, I received an email I nearly deleted as spam. It was from the Harbor Light Gallery in a coastal town called Saltmarsh, asking if I would consider discussing an exhibition. I stared at it for 20 minutes before I noticed my hands were shaking. I did not reply, because I'd spent 34 years learning to not expect good things. There's one person in the Ashford family who has always seen me clearly. My mother's younger sister, Margot. The family calls her the cautionary tale. She never married. She followed her love of ceramics instead of getting a sensible job, and built a small cafe and studio in a seaside village called Cove End. My mother has never quite forgiven her. All that potential, Mom says, wasted on pots. I phoned my Aunt Margot every Sunday evening for 7 years. My mother doesn't know. It was Margot who saw my photographs first. I sent her one, testing the waters, and rang back within the hour. Clara, this is extraordinary. No one had ever said that about anything I did. 6 weeks before the party, Margot said, I passed your account to a gallery owner I know in Saltmarsh. His name is Daniel Webb. He's been looking for new voices. Margot, that's the gallery that emailed me. I know, love, he wants to talk about a solo show. But that's a real career. Yes, she said simply, it is, and you deserve it. You don't need permission to pursue what you love. I learned that lesson far too late. You don't have to. That night, I replied to Daniel Webb.
My parents' 35th wedding anniversary. 40 guests, a catered menu I had helped negotiate to cut costs. I arrived at 8 in the morning in jeans and a jumper. No point dressing up when I would be in the kitchen all day. By late afternoon, the house was beautiful. Candles, polished crystal, my mother's finest china set for 40. I changed into a simple dark green dress and came downstairs. Is that what you're wearing? My mother, looking me up and down. It is quite plain. Just stay in the background, she added. Tonight is about your father and me. I nodded. I always nodded. Victoria arrived at 7:15 in deep burgundy silk, Sebastian in a navy suit, the girls dressed like illustrations from a children's book. My mother rushed forward, exclaiming, embracing, announcing Sebastian's latest development project to the room.
She did not mention that I had done his accounts for 2 years, free of charge, naturally. I circulated with the canapés. One of my mother's friends smiled and asked if I was with the catering company. Before I could answer, my mother appeared. "Oh, that is Clara, my other daughter. She helps out." The woman turned away. My mother moved on. She never noticed. She never did. At 9 o'clock, my father stood and tapped his champagne glass. 35 years of building this family, this home, this life, he said warmly, and we have a little announcement. My mother's eyes sparkled. Victoria reached for Sebastian's hand. I stood near the kitchen doorway, still holding a serving plate. "Next month, we're taking the whole family to the Maldives. 1 week, a second celebration, just the Ashfords." The room cheered. Victoria squealed. Something warm rose in my chest. The whole family. That meant me, too. I stepped forward. "That sounds wonderful. What day do we fly?" Silence. My father's expression changed. He glanced at my mother. Something wordless passed between them. "Clara, you will not be joining us." 40 pairs of eyes. "Someone must stay behind," my mother added, as though this were perfectly logical. "Victoria and Sebastian need a proper holiday. You will look after the girls." But "You do not have anything pressing, do you? Victoria works so hard. She deserves this." Victoria works so hard. Victoria, who had not held a paid job in 6 years. I set the serving plate down carefully, because I did not trust my hands. I smiled the smile I had been practicing for 34 years. "Of course, I understand." I excused myself to the kitchen, leaned against the counter, closed my eyes. Something inside me, something I had kept compressed for decades, finally shifted, not broke, shifted, like the first tremor before an earthquake. For the first time in my life, I started making a different kind of plan. After midnight, guests gone, parents in bed, I was alone in the living room folding tablecloths when I needed to send a client email. My laptop was at home. My mother's tablet was on the sideboard. She had borrowed my things without asking 100 times. I did not think twice. The mail app opened automatically, and there in recent brands was a subject line with my name in it. Maldives plans, the Clara situation. I should have closed it. I knew I should. I opened it. The thread was between my mother and Victoria, a week old. Helen to Victoria. "Keep Clara here with the girls. She hasn't got anything important on. It's practically free childcare. Honestly, she should be glad to feel useful for once." Victoria to Helen. "Totally agree. It's quite convenient. I almost feel sorry for her, but at least it works out for us." Free childcare. She should be glad. I almost feel sorry for her. I photographed the screen, cleared the browser history, then I sat alone in my mother's kitchen in the house I grew up in and finally understood completely what I had always been to them. I drove home at 1 in the morning, sat in the dark. Then I opened Daniel Webb's email. I called Aunt Margot, past midnight. She answered on the second ring. "Tell me," she said. I told her everything. My voice cracked once on the words, "almost feel sorry for her." "Clara," she said, when I finished, "I have a spare room above the cafe, and that gallery is 15 minutes from Cove End. Clara, I cannot just—" "Yes, you can. The only person standing in your way is you." I hung up at 2 in the morning. By 6, I was packing. 3 bags, my camera, my laptop, the scarf that had wrapped the Nikon for 3 years. I left the world's best auntie apron hanging on the kitchen door. For the first time at 34, I was choosing myself. Have you ever stood at this crossroads? Stay or go? family or self? Tell me in the comments and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. 2 days before the Maldives trip, I drove to Thornfield one final time. My mother in the conservatory, laying out holiday clothes, Victoria on the sofa with a travel guide, my father in his armchair with the newspaper, present in body, absent in attention. I need to say something. I'm leaving for Cornwall tomorrow. I have a professional opportunity. I will not be available for the children. Victoria's head snapped up. My mother's hands went still. We planned around you, Victoria said. You planned around an assumption you never asked. This is incredibly selfish, my mother said. Family comes first. Family comes first, I repeated, except I was not invited to the family holiday, so which is it? Silence. My father's expression changed. He glanced at my mother. Something wordless passed between them. Clara, he said slowly, if you walk out now, don't expect a warm welcome back. I understand, and for the first time, I truly did. The drive. 7 hours. I did not rush. Victoria texted somewhere near Bristol. You're going to end up alone just like Margot. Is that what you want? I sat with that message for a long time. Just like Margot, meant as a threat, meant to pull me back. But Margot had her own cafe, her own studio, her own life built entirely on her own terms. Margot was the happiest person I knew. Maybe ending up like Margot wasn't a warning, maybe it was a compass. I turned my phone off and kept driving. When the Atlantic appeared on my left, vast, silver, indifferent, and beautiful, I pulled over, rolled down the window, and breathed sea air for years. I cried, not from sadness, from something that felt terrifyingly like relief. At 7 that evening, I pulled into the gravel car park behind the ceramic kettle. Aunt Margot was on the step, arms open. "Welcome home," she said. And for the first time in 34 years, somewhere actually felt like it.
Cove End is the kind of village people drive to on purpose. Whitewashed cottages, fishing boats, a high street of independent art galleries and bakeries. It smells of salt and wood smoke, and it feels as though the world slowed down here and simply decided to stay. Margot's cafe occupied the ground floor of a converted boathouse on the harbor front. My room was above it, small, bright, a window that looked directly out to sea, a white quilt, a desk. Morning shift is 6 until noon, Margot told me. After that, your time is yours. Build something, Clara. That is the only rent I need. The next morning, I tied on a canvas apron, plain navy, no embroidered sentiments, and learned to make pour-over coffee. By noon, I had made 28 pounds in tips. I had laughed 3 times. I felt, for the first time in recent memory, like a person rather than a service. Meeting Daniel Webb. At 2 o'clock, I walked to the Harbor Light Gallery. Daniel Webb was tall, unhurried, silver-streaked, wearing a fisherman's jumper. He offered tea before anything else. "The Overlooked," he said. "I have been following it for 8 months. There is a quality in those photographs, a real attention to the person inside the frame that most photographers spend careers trying to find. Some never do." He pulled up a photograph on his screen, a man I had photographed 2 years before, sitting on a harbor wall at dawn, both hands wrapped around a thermos, watching the boats leave. His face was lined and peaceful and utterly present. This is the one that made me write to you. He looks like a man who has decided that this moment is enough. No longing, just presence. You gave him that. You made him visible. I would like to offer you a solo exhibition, 15 pieces, 8 weeks. We cover all production. You keep 60% of every sale. I signed the contract on a Tuesday. The document read, Artist, Clara Ashford. I read my own name twice. It was not the terms that undid me. It was seeing myself described as something other than someone who helps out. I walked out of that gallery holding the contract against my chest, physical proof that I had never been nothing. 8 weeks later, I stood in the center of the Harbor Light Gallery and could not quite believe it was real. 15 photographs on white walls, framed in oak, track lighting, a string quartet, a bartender, 60 guests, collectors, local artists, a journalist from the regional arts magazine, all of them there specifically to see my work. I wore a dark blue dress, hair down, a little lipstick, which for me counted as armor. Aunt Margot appeared at my side. How do you feel? Terrified. What if no one buys anything? Someone already has. A woman in her 60s, pearls, dark coat, stood very still in front of my Harbor Man photograph, a small red dot beside it. That is Elspeth Farrow. She owns half of the serious art in this part of England. She just paid £2,800 for that piece. £2,800 for a photograph taken at dawn, alone with a second-hand camera. Then the gallery door opened and my world lurched sideways. Victoria and Sebastian, still sunburned from the Maldives. Victoria in a floral dress, Sebastian with his phone already out. Victoria, oh thank goodness, we have been so worried. She reached for me like we were reuniting after a tragedy she had caused. Victoria, this is unexpected. We flew in yesterday, Mum found your account, and Victoria, I'm pregnant again, number 3. Sebastian is overwhelmed with work. I really need you to come home. Not congratulations on the exhibition, not I am sorry, just I need you, the eternal refrain. She is not coming back, Aunt Margot said, quiet and absolute. Sebastian stepped forward. With respect, this is a family matter. Is it? The family that called her free childcare, in writing? Victoria went pale. The journalist's pen was moving. Elspeth Farrow raised an eyebrow. I just paid nearly £3,000 for that young woman's art, so if she's pretending, she's doing rather well at it. I stepped forward into the center of my own exhibition. I did not raise my voice. Victoria, congratulations on the pregnancy. I mean that, but I will not be coming home to be your childcare. You can hire a nanny, a real one who gets paid and goes home at 6. What you cannot hire is me, because I was never paid. I was never thanked. I was simply assumed. This is not a hobby. I have been building this for 3 years, in the early mornings, in the evenings, while you were at the spa and I was running your daughter's birthday parties. My work has value. I have value, and I will not walk away from that to go back to being useful. Daniel Webb started to clap. Margot joined him. Then Elspeth Farrow raised her glass. Then, slowly, the whole room followed. Not for the photographs, for the woman who had finally said, enough. I hope your pregnancy is healthy. I hope your daughters are happy. But if you want to be in my life, it will need to be equal, both ways. They left. 20 minutes later, my parents walked in. My mother in her good coat, my father looking uncertain, the first time I'd ever seen that on his face. I read them the email, every word. Free childcare, she should be glad, almost feel sorry for her. I am not reading this to shame you. I am reading it so you understand why I left. You did not see me as family. You saw me as staff, and staff can resign. My mother left without a word. My father took her arm. The gallery door closed behind them with a soft click that somehow echoed louder than any slam. Aunt Margot put her arm around my shoulders. Are you all right? I think so. And the thing was, I was. That night I sold 9 of 15 photographs, £12,600, 60% mine, more than I had earned in 3 months of bookkeeping. Elspeth Farrow commissioned a new series on the Cornish fishing community. The arts magazine offered a cover feature. 2 months on, my life in Cove End has a rhythm. Up before dawn, the sea from my window, the cafe by 6, afternoons in my studio, a small rented space 3 streets from the harbor, walls covered in work-in-progress prints. My second exhibition opens in 6 weeks. I'm calling it Thresholds, photographs of edges, doorways, the space between belonging and being alone. I think it's the best work I've ever made. My father sent an email.
3 lines. Clara, I saw the article. I think I understand now. I'm sorry it took this long. That one I kept. My mother hasn't written. Maybe she will. Either way, I'm no longer waiting. Today, I'm at my desk watching raining move across the harbor. The second-hand Nikon sits on the shelf beside a newer camera, one I bought with money I earned from my art. Both matter. One reminded me to see. The other proved that people had started to see me back. I'm not rich, I'm not famous, but I am finally seen. And it turns out that was the only thing I ever truly needed. If something in Clara's story felt familiar, if you recognized that invisible ache of being the one who always shows up but never quite gets counted, I want you to know that feeling has a name, and it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. Setting a boundary is not betrayal. Leaving is not abandonment. Choosing yourself is not selfish. It's survival. Your worth has never depended on how useful you are to others. It's not something you earn. It's not something you have to prove. It was always there. Sometimes the bravest thing is not to fight back. It's to walk out, build something of your own, and let your life speak louder than any argument ever could. You deserve that. You always have. If this story moved you, hit like. It takes 1 second and it helps more people find these stories.